This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Richard, looks like another Hall of Fame coach is leaving the sport, and that would be Jim Boeheim. It was announced yesterday that he will not be returning as the men's basketball coach at Syracuse. So you think about lately, Coach K, no longer coaching. Roy Williams, no longer coaching. Jay Wright, no longer coaching. And now Boeheim. I mean, how open is recruiting right now with 4 Hall of Famers leaving the last 2 years in basketball?
Yeah, you got a good point. Definitely, those guys got their share of top prospects, but Duke didn't slack off in recruiting last year, that's for sure. But those schools will always recruit well. Now, obviously, Duke hasn't missed a beat, but will the other schools, how will they do with new coaches? That remains to be seen. But it does give some opportunities for, especially schools in those regions, especially say Syracuse in the Big East, opportunities to maybe make some inroads for recruiting. But definitely will be interesting to watch. I mean, 47 years, that's incredible.
Richard, I remember Coach Muss telling us a few weeks ago that during last season's NCAA tournament, they were still having to recruit heavily some transfer guys because if you're not doing it even in the midst of a tournament run, you're behind the 8 ball. I know we've talked about Coach Pittman having to do that with the bowl game, the prep there. I mean, how do coaches balance that in both football and basketball when either preparing for postseason or they're in the middle of postseason? How do they do that?
Well, I mean, you usually have some. You just make some time. You make some time during the day that that works for both parties, and you FaceTime, you Zoom, and you just make time. I mean, it's just part of the game right now that you. Even during postseason play, you're recruiting, and you were already recruiting even in postseason play. But obviously, with the transfer portal, it's kind of upped its game a little bit because you have a little bit more of a sense of urgency because you're trying to get those guys on campus as soon as the season's over with. So in basketball. You focus on the transfers and then you focus on the high school guys for the most part. At least that's the way I look at it. But and because the transfer guys are trying to make decisions fairly quickly to know where they're going to be going, in the next semester. So it's kind of like obviously Coach Pittman and football and how it was in January for them and right before the bowl game. It's that way with Coach Muss and his staff right now.
It's hard to fathom 47 seasons at the same school, just like it's, we're so disconnected to a bygone generation that used to work. You go get you a job out of the military or out of school, you'd work there 40 years and you'd retire. 47 years at a place and 78 years old, that's hard to imagine, but it's also hard to imagine, Richard, at 78 years old and after 47 years, you could really truly be in tune and in touch with today's college sports, today's college basketball, NIL, transfer portal. That's hard for me to also get on board with as well.
No, I tend to agree. I mean, when you've been able to, obviously things changed in the 47 years when he was at Syracuse as far as recruiting and kids and just society in general, but NIL and transfer portal is I think that's the biggest shock for all the college coaches in just about every sport nowadays on the college level. It's just a different animal. There's so many different moving parts that you have to adjust to. And when you're 78 years old and you've been there 47 years, I mean, you were about to hang it up at some point anyway. Now, would he have gone another year or two without NIL or the portal? Who knows? We don't know that, but that is it's I wrote about that just recently. Jeremy Crabtree from On Three Sports talked about how, at least on the college football level, coaches are concerned about the profession just because of all the extra stuff that they have on their plate with NIL and the transfer portal and roster management, stuff like that. Now, at least in basketball, you don't have that as much. But I mean, as far as the numbers that you have to worry about, but still, it's still more on your plate.
There won't be a coaching search. They've already named the replacement as long. I think it's Chris Autry. I know it's Autry. I think it's Chris Autry. Has been a long-time assistant with Boeheim, former player. He's going to move into the role of head coach for Syracuse. But you got openings at Ole Miss, Texas Tech. Now has an opening. Former Razorback assistant Corey Williams is the interim there. Notre Dame. I think the carousel, we focus on it a lot in football. It's going to heat up here, and it'll be interesting to see how those dominoes fall over the next few weeks as seasons wind down, Richard.
Yeah, a lot of rumors are being floated around. It looks like evidently Beard's going to be the guy at Ole Miss, which kind of surprised me. I thought he would have to sit out a year. A year and kind of revamp his rehab his image, but I guess not. Yeah, it's always interesting, near the end of the season in football and basketball, seeing what's open and the possibilities of who might fill those positions.
Richard, I want to talk more about Chris Beard. We're talking with Richard Davenport, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, and Whole Hog Sports. I know everyone was cheating during the Southwest Conference days, but money is NIL before NIL, right? But with all these different big stories, I mean, you got the Beard situation, the Brandon Miller situation. I mean, you've had various other things that have happened. How do athletic directors decide what they're willing to forgive / in certain cases let go in order to boost their said athletic department?
I think there's several pieces of the puzzle there. I think in the Ole Miss's situation, I guarantee you that the AD Carter reached out to the president, told him, hey, I'm going to reach out, I'm going to interview this guy, and the president probably had obviously had an opportunity to shut that down, but evidently that didn't happen. I'll be honest with you, I kind of thought the conference, the SEC commissioner would kind of get into this just because of just what's happened with Alabama and with what happened with Beard at Texas. Regardless of how it all shaked out, I mean, there was an altercation and there was some physical contact evidently with his girlfriend, and that's going to be kind of a tough sell for some of the alumni and some of the boosters at Ole Miss. But evidently the AD feels confident enough that he's got the green light to do that. So I'm for one kind of surprised.
And on that subject, I think Hugh Freeze was the other name that I was thinking about. So there was an idea out there for a while that he was blackballed from coming into the SEC. Now he's back as the Auburn head football coach. Beard, as you just said, looks like he could end up in Oxford. It's not even been a couple months. So if you're Greg Sankey, is that his job as the commissioner to prevent hires like this? Like how does he come into power when it comes to these type of discussions?
I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs, but I think he can put enough pressure on a school and say no. I think that's happened. That probably happened with Freeze a couple of times before he was hired this year by Auburn. I mean, he was at Liberty for I don't know how many years. I think, was it 5? I can't remember. But at least there was a little bit of a time period where he kind of got away from the SEC and kind of, I guess, supposedly, rehabbed his image, and now, we see where he is. But with Beard, I'm kind of shocked. I really thought the commissioner would maybe step in and kind of squash that, but evidently it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Richard, state championship games begin today in Hot Springs, and will last throughout the next couple of days into Saturday. Any particular games you want to make sure you tune in on TV or get to see in person? Who are the prime players on both the men's and women's sides that will be playing in the championship games the next few days in Hot Springs?
You know, I'll give you the same answer that I gave probably last week. I apologize. You know, with Arkansas football having so many guys on campus, my whole day on Saturday is focused on Razorback football recruiting, and I'm putting together names and contacting kids to figure out who's visiting. And they had their first visitor today. One of their first visitors for the first spring practice, and then they have another visitor tomorrow and a bunch on Saturday. So I've been so tied up with that.
Well,
I've seen bits and pieces, but I don't know a lot of who's playing, to be honest with you. I'm not going to lie.
Well, all right, let's talk about that, because I know Saturday, it was for everyone that was at the Kentucky game, they saw Sam Pittman and his staff, and there's 5 newcomers on his staff that were introduced to a crowd. There were a lot of recruits there, and you mentioned Saturday's going to be a busy day. Give us kind of a recap of the comments you've seen from last Saturday and those that were on campus for the Kentucky game, and who's coming in for this weekend.
Yeah, that was an impressive group of kids that visited on Saturday, and the headliner, I guess, if there was one that the fans were, I guess, most hyped about, was K.J. Bolden, a defensive back from Buford, Georgia, the number 3 overall prospect in the nation, according to ESPN, a consensus 5-star prospect. Talked to his mom and talked to him. Both the Arkansas visit was probably the best visit that they've taken so far. Both were just extremely impressed with the coaching staff and how they were treated. And talking to KJ, he said Arkansas will definitely be in the mix when they start talking about official visits. So if somehow they were able to land him, he would be the highest rated prospect ever to sign with Arkansas. The previous one would be Mitch Mustang.
Richard, I know this. They were doing this rap video with Coach T. Will. I saw them put that out. If Tommy would have been in that video, he would have already committed. It's just a bummer that we didn't have Kraft up there.
Yeah,
Fayetteville.
He's the first guy that I thought about because he can cut it loose, on the dance floor, and he knows that. I think the last time we talked, Tommy, he couldn't talk anything but rap and all your favorite rappers, and I was surprised. I'm not going to lie to you.
Outkast, Ice Cube. You got.
I've been known to lay down a beat.
It was
Chance.
For those that don't know what we're talking about, Arkansas's got like a music recording studio, right, Richard, in the football facility, and that's where guys will sometimes go record mixtapes and various things. Yeah,
that was a hit, and I even asked KJ about that, and I had to go back and listen to the interview, but he wasn't 100%. I'm sure he knew who it was, but he didn't have a fast, quick answer of who they were listening to.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game starts.